All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into the whole world of site reliability engineering. But look, we're not just going to give you a dry definition. No, we are going to lay out a real, practical roadmap for how you can become an SRE. And we're going to start with a pretty wild idea. What if you're already one?
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question that, yeah, it might sound a little weird at first. What if you're already an SRE, you just don't have the title yet? It's this super interesting concept, right? That in pretty much any company, you'll find people who are already thinking and acting like SREs, even without any of the formal training.
And that right there, that's the mindset we're talking about. See, it's not about just sitting around waiting for the pager to go off. It's about being the person who's proactively asking those tough questions in meetings, The one who kicks off post-incident reviews to actually learn from what went wrong, and who builds little tools to make life better for everyone. If that sounds familiar, if that's you, well, congrats, you're already thinking like an SRE. The real trick is just getting the rest of the org to see it.
So, to help you do just that, here's what we've got on the agenda. We're going to look at the common paths people take to get into the field, then we'll get into decoding job postings, mastering the interview, and finally, we'll pull back the curtain on what a day in the life of an SRE is really like.
All right, let's dig into the common entry points. Not everyone walks the same path to get here. And honestly, that's one of the biggest strengths of the entire SRE practice. That diversity of experience is huge.
Okay, so if you're a student right now, the absolute name of the game is getting your hands dirty with real experience. I'm talking jobs with infrastructure, jumping into a hackathon, and seriously, use those free cloud credits. The big providers are practically begging you to learn on their platform, so take advantage of it. But here's the kicker, and this is super important. This isn't just a game for CS majors. If you're coming from the humanities, lean into what makes you awesome. Your ability to tell a clear, compelling story about a super complex technical mess, that's a straight-up superpower in the SRE world.
Now, what if you're a developer thinking about making the jump? Well, for you, it's all about a mental shift. You're already a pro at building code, right? The SRE challenge is to become completely obsessed with how that code actually behaves out in the wild, in the chaos of production. It's a total change from thinking, okay, what feature are we building next? To asking, all right, how could this thing catastrophically fail? And, more importantly, how would we even notice?
And for my sysadmin folks out there, this slide just nails the mindset shift. Look, it's not just a small step up, it's a huge expansion of how you think. You're moving from a world of reactive, ticket after ticket work to a much more proactive stance. So instead of just watching a server's CPU, you're now measuring what the customer is actually feeling. And you're ditching that impossible goal of 100% uptime for something much smarter, defending the right level of reliability for the business.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. Just slapping an SRE label on your old sysadmin team without actually changing the mission, the tools, the culture, it's just a recipe for disaster. This is a huge warning sign, folks. It just doesn't work. The change has to be real, it has to be deep.
Okay, so you've got a sense of the path you're on. Now let's talk about finding the actual destination. And that means learning to read between the lines of a job description to figure out if it's a real SRE role or, just a sysadmin job with a fancy new title. What I love about this is that it basically turns you into a job ad detective. The tech they list, those are your clues. Like if they're asking for something modern like Kubernetes, but also something ancient like Nagios, that might be a hint that they've got this split brain thing going on, where a new SRE team is fighting with an old entrenched infrastructure. Or if they talk a lot about ticketing systems, that could mean the job is way more reactive than they're letting on. See? These little details tell you the real story. And please listen to this next piece of advice. It's so important. Do not let a crazy long list of requirements scare you off. A lot of the time, that's just a hiring manager's wish list, not a hard and fast checklist. If you've got the core skills and most importantly, the right mindset, just apply. Don't talk yourself out of it before you even give it a shot.
All right, you've done your detective work, you've sent in the application, and boom, you landed the interview. Awesome. Now remember, this is not just about them grilling you. This is a two-way street. It's your absolute best chance to figure out if this company is the right fit for you.
So no matter where you're interviewing, your prep should really be built around these 4 big pillars. First up is now-lesti. That's non-abstract large system design. Basically, get ready to whiteboard a real system, not some textbook example. Then you've got to be able to talk about your philosophy on monitoring and observability. You'll need to show you've got the computing fundamentals down cold. And probably most important of all, you need to be able to walk them step by step through how you tackle a really nasty, complex outage.
Okay, and then you get to that magic moment at the end of the interview when they ask, "So, do you have any questions for us?" Your answer should always be an enthusiastic, "Oh, absolutely." Because this is where the real deep dive conversation starts. This is your shot to turn the tables and interview them.
For example, just ask this one simple question. Their answer will tell you so much about their company culture. Does it sound like they're looking for someone to blame when things go wrong? Or does it sound like they are genuinely, intentionally trying to learn from failure? A healthy SRE culture is 100% built on learning, not blaming.
And don't be afraid to dig in a little deeper. Ask who's actually in the room for these reviews. Is it just a bunch of engineers? Or do managers and product people show up too? Do they write up what happened and actually use that information to improve? Or do those reports just get tossed into a digital drawer somewhere, never to be seen again? The answers here are massive clues about how healthy their whole engineering practice is.
Now you got to be ready for this potential curveball. You ask this really sharp, insightful question about their process, and they just toss it right back at you. They'll say something like, "That's a fantastic question. We were hoping the person we hire for this role would build that for us."
Okay, if this happens, first thing, don't panic. Just recognize it for what it is. It's a massive signal that their SRE practice is either brand new or, well, doesn't really exist yet. So now, your mission is to figure out if you're being set up for success or for a whole lot of frustration. Start asking about the budget, the political support, and where this role actually sits on the org chart. Because if you have to fight your way up 3 levels of management every time you need to talk to a feature team, yeah, you might be in for a really rough ride.
And finally, you did it. You navigated the whole process, you crushed the interview, and you got the job. Awesome. But what do you actually do all day as an SRE? So the very first thing you need to get your head around is that there is no such thing as an average day. Just forget that idea. It's way more helpful to think about the job in terms of different modes that you're constantly switching between. It's like wearing a bunch of different hats all week long.
First up, you've got the most famous one, incident mode. This is 100% reactive. Your day isn't planned out. It's being dictated minute by whatever is on fire. It is absolutely high stakes, definitely high stress, and it's usually a wild mix of adrenaline and anxiety while you're scrambling to get the service back online.
And then, once the fire is out, the goal is to shift into post-incident learning mode. This, right here, is where the real SRE magic happens. You switch from firefighter to detective. You're piecing together the timeline, figuring out not just what happened, but why it happened, and then leading a blameless conversation to make sure it can't happen that way again. This is literally where you turn failure into resilience for the future.
So as we've seen, from uncovering that SRE that might already be inside you all the way to decoding the interview process, it's pretty clear that becoming an SRE is about so much more than just getting a new job title. It's a deep, fundamental shift in how you approach building and running technology. It is a full-on commitment to learning, to collaboration, and to that relentless pursuit of reliability. So the real question isn't just, can you do the job? It's, are you truly ready to embrace that mindset?